Welcome to Rosie the Reviewer. We're your hosts. I'm Sam,
And I'm Maartje.
and we like World War II media, and we want to talk about it. Welcome back to Rosie the Reviewer. This week we're talking about the film Godzilla Minus One, which came out in 2023. It was written and directed by Takashi Yamazaki. It's the 37th film in the Godzilla franchise, which is the longest running film franchise in history, and it follows a Japanese kamikaze pilot who has a life-altering encounter with Godzilla at the end of World War II. And it's available on Netflix. And we have a guest with us today. It's our friend Julie, our resident Godzilla expert. Welcome, Julie.
Thank you. Thank you kindly. Yes, I'm actually Europe's leading expert on giant lit. No, I'm kidding.
What did you guys think of the movie? Mart, what was your general impression?
Well, I must be a bit culturally dumb or something because I did not know about the significance between Godzilla and World War II in general. So I was like, wait, why are we watching a Godzilla movie? And also, I don't like any kind of creature movie, so I thought I wasn't going to like it, but I actually ended up really liking this movie. Like, apart from the fact that there's a giant monster in it, it's a pretty good movie. Acting is good, characters are fun, there's a bunch of fun themes in it that we don't get to see very often. I enjoyed. What didn't I enjoy? I guess I enjoyed Godzilla even a little, even though I thought he looked kind of undangerous despite being enormous. Yeah, I don't know. I really liked it. I was really surprised. How about you? Really?
I come at it from almost the exact opposite point of view as you, because as you guys know, I'm not exactly a World War II fan, shall we say? That doesn't sound quite right, but you know what I mean. But I do love actually, just for the sake of the record, I am very much down with war. Boo hiss. But I do love a monster movie. The bigger the better. I loved Pacific Rim. I love King Kong. The Meg. Giant sharks. Like, doesn't get better than that for me. So Godzilla, big guy, big fan of the big guy. So yes, interestingly, with Godzilla being a metaphor for nuclear destruction and nuclear war, is interesting to have the sort of human aspect of it. Quite often in Godzilla movies, you do find yourself going, well, this is all about the monster, and without it, it would be really quite tedious and devoid of content. But with Minus One, I feel like you could take away the giant monster that looms out of the sea, and it would still be a great story. You know, there would still be so much there. So yeah, in that regard, it is really cool. You know, Godzilla 1998 with Matthew Broderick. You know, it's all about the monster and hoping that he will step on Matthew Broderick, and that's kind of it. There's just so much more to this than the monster. And I disagree. He's fucking terrifying.
Yeah, I think anytime the Japanese make a Godzilla movie, there are themes and metaphors, and anytime the Americans do it, it's like, "Oh no, it's Godzilla!" Like, it's just about the big monster, and,
Yeah.
yeah, and this movie is very much like the main character is a World War II veteran suffering PTSD and survivor's guilt, and sometimes Godzilla is there to make it
That is
worse.
it. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say.
Yeah. And it's a great movie, honestly. Just there's, so much happening with this character's arc, so to speak, and then sometimes Godzilla turns up and ruins everyone's day. So there is tons of fun Godzilla destroying Tokyo content if you're into that, but there's also themes and shit. I also thought this was a really good movie, and I think I had managed to avoid seeing a Godzilla movie, not intentionally. I just
Really?
Yeah, I'm not sure what has ever crossed my screen before, but I'm glad that this was the first one. It was like a really good introduction to Godzilla, I think.
It's a good place to start. Very good place to start. Although I do feel that you will be somewhat disappointed with the others. But yeah, it's like you say, you know, when Japan makes a Godzilla movie, it is very different to when America does it. There are people who Godzilla is a metaphor for nuclear war, but there are also people who see him as a metaphor for the US. You know, this giant monster that basically storms in and fucks shit up.
Yeah, I think in the original Godzilla, it was made in the wake of The Americans had done a bunch of atomic testing, and it had killed some fishermen, and then the original Godzilla opens with a bunch of fishermen being killed, so it was very,
Mm,
like, specific, like, it was very pointed.
yeah.
So let's get into the plot. The movie opens with kamikaze pilot Koichi Shikishima, played by Ryunosuke Kamiki, and he lands his Mitsubishi Zero at the Odo Island airfield in the closing days of World War II. And we think it's because his plane needs repairs, but turns out he's just avoiding his duty of being a kamikaze pilot.
Yeah, he doesn't wanna fly his plane directly into a ship.
What a
Relatable.
coward.
Odo Island is the setting for the original Godzilla, so it's a nice little nod to that, and, OG Godzilla was made in 1954, and as we already said, it was intended to be a metaphor for nuclear destruction when it came out, and I liked that they had sort of a through line with that theme in this movie.
Yeah, well, supposedly the reason they called it Godzilla Minus One is because, Japan, in the very immediate wake of World War II, was already at zero, if you will, and then Godzilla shows up and makes it worse. That's the minus one. But it also could refer to the this would essentially be a prequel to the first Godzilla movie. So timeline wise, it is minus one, and then that's a cool part.
Yeah, that makes sense, for sure. Some information about kamikaze pilots. In late 1944, Japan knew that it was losing the war. The writing was on the wall. So they organized these special attack units to train military personnel to carry out suicide attacks. The most famous are the kamikaze pilots who would fly a plane into an American ship, for example. But they also trained people to crew like suicide boats. They had suicide torpedo submariners, like basically they would like strap a guy to a torpedo so he could steer it into an American ship or submarine. So they had
Fun.
yeah, yeah. And it was one of those things where at least if you're a kamikaze pilot and you run into technical difficulties or whatever, you can turn around like our character in this movie. But once you're strapped to a torpedo, there's not really any getting back into the submarine. So so obviously, their special attack unit included kamikaze pilots, which are an enduring image of World War II, I think. There were 3,800 of them who died in the final months of the war, and only about 19% of the attacks were successful because, as it turns out, driving a plane into a ship while you're being shot at is actually not an exact science. But they did manage to kill 7,000 Allied naval personnel and sunk or damaged dozens of ships. Despite that, there really was not sufficient return on the high price paid in human life. Like you're flinging trained pilots and planes and at these American ships, and then you don't get to use them again, right? It's like a one time, one and done kind of thing. And so they didn't turn the tide of the war. And unsuccessful kamikaze pilots did face social stigma after the war, as we see in this movie.
Yeah, that's pretty rough. Kill yourself at this ship, but if you don't, well, we will shame you for it.
It wasn't just flying a plane; like they would, you would strap your plane full of bombs.
Mm, mm.
You'd get rid of your extra fuel tanks and everything so you could fit more explosives on your plane so that you could really do damage when you hit it. And they manufactured these planes almost some of them almost specifically for kamikaze. So basically, another plane would fly you there and then sort of release you, and then you would only have to fly like the last few hundred feet, essentially flying a cruise missile.
Wow. I mean, you did kind of give a little bit of a spoiler there already, like secretly. But we'll get to it when we get to it.
Yeah, you do see at the start when Koichi is landing his plane after he's, essentially gone, fuck this, rightly so, and come back, that he has the, whatchamacallit, my brain's gone blank, what do you call him?
Torpedo or bomb?
Thank you, yeah, his payload on the underside of his plane, and you're like, damn, you gotta be careful landing that thing. Like, they comment, it's like, wow, I can't believe you landed your plane here on this rough runway, and it's just like, oh yeah, and there's a bomb strapped to the underside of it, so that could have very easily gone wrong for him.
Yeah, and I think typically, if you were not planning to fly your plane into a ship, you would jettison your bombs before you landed a plane if you had an unsuccessful bombing run, but I wonder if the kamikaze planes did not come equipped to do that because they were like, "You have no need to jettison your bombs, bro. You're going out, and then you're
That's
not coming
just
back."
extra work for nothing. Yeah.
Well, that night Godzilla attacks. You see Godzilla fucking immediately in case you were concerned that there's not gonna be enough Godzilla in this movie.
Yeah, there are no blue balls.
No. And our main character, Shikishima, is not able to stop him. And there's this whole attack. All these mechanics unfortunately get slaughtered by Godzilla. And lead Navy Air Service mechanic Sasaku Chichibana, played by Munetaka Aoki, is the only other survivor. And he blames Shikishima for what happened, and that will be irrelevant later because he will turn up again.
Yeah, that
Spoilers.
part, they're yelling at him to get in his plane and shoot at Godzilla with the is it 200 millimeter? Was it 20 millimeter?
Yeah, he has cannons. Well,
Yeah,
yeah.
they're to shoot
Yeah.
at him with those, because 'cause they'll kill anything, but, like, do you seen the size of that lad? He's an absolute unit.
It's true, and I mean, as we learn later, Godzilla has magical healing powers, so it probably wouldn't have made a difference anyways.
Yeah, like, he's quite clearly extremely thick-skinned, and, yeah, I think I would probably freeze when faced with an enormous kaiju
It's
who
true.
just seems really, really mad at the world in general.
Yeah, you're really not expecting a huge lizard to climb out of the sea and try to fuck everything up.
No! No.
One thing that I love is that when you watch a zombie movie, the characters are, like, allergic to saying the word zombie, but in this movie, they say the word Godzilla so many fucking times. They're like, "Yeah, that's the villagers call him Godzilla," and then they mention Godzilla. It's just funny because I watched it obviously in, like, Japanese with English subtitles, so I would see, like, the subtitle come up, and then I would listen to them talking, and it would be, like, a bunch of Japanese stuff I don't understand. "Godzilla!" I was like, "Yeah."
Yeah, all in all, I have to note that ultimately they didn't seem as surprised as I think I would be if Godzilla were to tramp out of the sea. Like, they were shocked, sure, but I feel like I would have been somewhat more taken aback.
They're not running fast enough either.
The
They're just like, shoot him, while staying in place.
Yeah, it's a little bit of victim blaming there, Kate. Well, they should have just run faster.
I mean,
Mark's like, "If I saw Godzilla, I would simply get the fuck out of there."
I mean, sensible, but he does have quite long legs.
He does.
That'll come up later too, I think.
Shikishima returns home in the summer of 1945 and he finds his parents dead and his neighborhood completely destroyed by the American air raids. He takes in a local woman called Noriko Oshii, played by Minami Hamabe. She has an orphan child, Akiko, played by Sein Nakatani. And at first he doesn't want to take them in, but then he also feels like he can't leave them alone, so they become this little family unit, but they're not really a family. And Shikishima's neighbor, Sumiko Ota, played by Sakura Ando, thinks he's a pretty shitty guy for returning, because he's supposed to be a kamikaze pilot, but she still helps him out with stuff. Like,
Yeah, she's like his super nosy neighbor, and she's like, "You're a shithead," but she keeps turning up to, like she's like, "Ah, I guess I'll help you with this or that."
like food and rice. I'll give you my hard-earned rice, my good rice. Use it for the baby.
Yeah.
Well, listen, yeah, I mean, no matter how much of a shithead you might think your neighbor is, if he has a random woman and a baby to look after, if you're really that convinced of his incompetence, you're gonna feel like you can't just leave him to it.
This was an interesting contrast to Grave of the Fireflies, which we did a few months ago, so you can go listen to that episode, where, essentially it's these 2 main characters who are children, and the world more or less abandons them.
Yeah, some of the imagery I feel is quite similar, especially later on, once their little family unit gets sort of cozy for a bit. I was like, this reminds me of the good bits in Grave of the Fireflies, even though that's horribly sad.
Yeah, this movie has a better ending than Grave of the Fireflies, that's for sure.
Yep.
I have not seen it. I have seen a lot of discussion online, generally in threads like, "Oh, what movie should I watch if I want to completely cry my eyes out? Like, what film can I watch that will destroy me entirely?" And yeah, quite often Grave with the Fireflies is up there. So, haven't watched that one yet.
It's a beautiful film, but it is very sad.
Yeah, yeah, maybe one day.
Shikishima gets a job destroying mines that were left in the sea by the US and Japanese navies during the war. Unfortunately, he encounters Godzilla anew, bigger, meaner, and more unstoppable than at Odo because of American nuclear tests at Bikini Atoll. Basically, there's a scene where we just see the Americans doing these nuclear tests, and then it's like Godzilla mutates and becomes a huge beast. And they have this fruitless battle during which a heavy cruiser is destroyed right in front of their eyes. It turns up, and they're like, surely Godzilla can't take down this ship. And nope, turns out Godzilla can, and Godzilla does. And so they have this whole little scene where they're collecting these sea mines, right? And they're like, we're gonna yeet one directly into Godzilla's mouth, and that will definitely destroy him. But it doesn't really slow him down for very long. So Shikishima and his crew return to Tokyo, and throughout this whole scene, we're getting introduced to a group that I refer to as Shikishima's boys, and they
Boys.
include former engineer Kenji Noda, played by Hidetaka Yoshioka. There's a boy who is too young to fight in the war, but he's kind of jazzed about the idea. Shiro Mizushima, played by Yuki Yamada. And the ship captain, who's my favorite character because I just think he's fun and hilarious, Saiji Akitsu, played by Kuranosuke Sasaki.
Yeah, and they're on a wooden boat or ship, which I thought was interesting because it's built that way so it doesn't set off the magnetic mines that the Americans have placed in the sea. That was a really interesting historical detail they explained to us.
Yes. By the end of the war, there were about 25,000 American mines planted by planes and submarines that were floating in Japanese waters. They started demining efforts right away, and they actually had some American help with that. As soon as the war was over, the U.S. Navy actually helped to remove some of the mines, and they were able to remove most of them, but it's a really difficult and expensive process, and it actually still continues today. In October of 2023, the Japanese Navy detonated a naval mine in the Shimonoseki Straits. And yeah, so that was not that long ago. And there are maybe as many as 1,000 mines that remain in the surrounding waters.
So
That's
not
a
great
lot.
for paddling then.
Probably not.
I'll leave my paddleboard at home.
The cruiser that we see is the Takao, which is actually the namesake of the Takao class of heavy cruisers used by the Japanese Navy in World War II. These were the largest cruisers in the Japanese fleet. They would have been a crucial part in any naval strike force. A cruiser is a warship. Basically, it's bigger than a destroyer, but it's less heavily armed than a battleship. So it's kind of right in the middle there. And this one, the Takao cruiser, is I guess sort of famous in Japan. She was in service across the Pacific during World War II. She participated in the naval battle at Guadalcanal, and you can go listen to our Pacific episodes if you want to hear more about that. She helped to sink the USS Hornet aircraft carrier, which we talked about just recently in our Midway episode in October of 1942. And she was only one of 4 ships in her class, and she was the only one to survive the war. But she was badly damaged in late 1944, and ultimately in 1946, the British used her for target practice and scuttled her. In the context of the movie, her war damage is repaired, and the U.S. lets Japan have her back to defend themselves against Godzilla. They're like, you're gonna need a big badass boat to take on this lizard. We won't help you, but like, here's a ship you can use.
Fat Loader could have did them too. It lasted for about 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Godzilla really just had no time for that cruiser.
Well, look, maybe if the damn Brits hadn't fucked it up so badly, then, it would have done better, but somehow it did.
Shikishima tells Noriko about what happened on Odo with Godzilla after he's had a nightmare. And he's had these nightmares frequently, and he feels enormously guilty for having survived. And it's very tangible throughout the movie, I think, his guilt, and I think it's quite well done. I also like it influences how close he allows himself to be to Noriko and the kid. I forgot her name already, I'm sorry.
Akiko, I think.
Yeah, Kiko. So I think it's a really, you wouldn't expect it in a Godzilla movie, would you? To have themes that are so subtly done but also so prominent in a movie like this. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, we love a theme around here.
Yep.
Yeah, I think in a lot of Godzilla movies, they focus less on the radioactive kind of powers that he has, and he just kind of stomps around and messes stuff up. But they really don't shy away from leaning into that shit war kind of damage that he does here. And ultimately, it's a pretty horrifying scene, really. There are arguments in some of the movies for being on Godzilla's side, notably Godzilla 1998, where you hope that he steps on Matthew Broderick. Very much not the case in this one. You can really align yourself with the humans. It's quite horrifying. No woohoo Godzilla here, for me at least.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's a kind of a lovely story about someone, healing from, all this trauma of combat, and it's like, also, incidentally, Godzilla is there.
And he will keep being there.
That's right. Just when you
Yeah.
think Godzilla is not coming back, he's coming back. He's mad. He's like, "Listen, at this point, I became a mutant. I'm mad about it. I was just in the ocean minding my business, eating the occasional villager, fine, off an island, and now I'm huge and I need to destroy Tokyo about it."
Yeah, it's essentially Godzilla is nuclear war, but he's also PTSD.
Yeah.
Mm.
I feel like we should briefly talk about something that happened earlier, which is a thing where Godzilla kind of stands up in the middle of the ocean, and you're like, how are you standing?
I'm like, are his legs, like, just below the surface of the water where we can't see, just furiously egg beatering?
Listen, this is one of those things where you really just have to suspend your disbelief. Which, shouldn't be too hard because there's a big fuck off monster here. But yeah, it's not that easy because you're like, okay, well, either he is pedaling real fast or he has a set of stilts. Just those are the only options, really.
Or he's Jesus and he can walk on water.
That does add an extra layer.
He does have magic powers, we don't know.
He does. Yeah, that's right. We don't know. So just suspend your disbelief. Godzilla can somehow float, I guess.
Not long after this, Godzilla attacks Ginza, where Noriko works, and Shikishima rushes to save her. But there's a whole little scene where Godzilla is coming and she pushes him out of the way or something, and he narrowly survives. But he believes that Noriko has died in the attack. And we see this black radioactive rain coming down, which we also talked about in our Grave of the Fireflies episode. And yes, he's very upset by this turn of events because he didn't appreciate her while she was here.
No, and I
In
want to
this
say,
essay, I
like,
will.
his friends are like, why aren't you marrying her? Why aren't you? What are you doing? Why are you not, like, putting a ring on that? And he's like, no, I can't do it.
Well,
So,
listen, he did have a go at her at the start for dressing like a homeless person, I think it was, which to me seemed a little bit judgy. Like, the war is over. She has taken on this child that isn't hers, but her mother died, and and she still is being expected to, look after her appearance and not look like a hobo, which I think is just, even this shamed kamikaze pilot with all his guilt, he still has time to put down her outfit.
and to be fair, she is homeless. So,
Yeah! Like, bruh,
So is half of Tokyo at that point.
you would think after everything he's been through, a sense of perspective might be in order, but no.
Yeah, he comes home from the war. His parents are dead. His neighborhood's been leveled, like half the city, because as we also talked about in our Grave of the Fireflies episode, the Americans did some bombing runs over Japanese cities where the casualty rate was higher than the atomic bombs. Like, it really cannot be overstated how badly the Americans fucked up a lot of these cities with just regular bombing.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, so he gets home and he's immediately, like, being super judgy about this poor woman who's, like, clearly just been living out on the streets because her home is gone. It's like, "Come on, bro."
Yeah, like my wardrobe was in there. My Jimmy Choos and my Chanel is gone. I suppose we should really look at it from his point of view. He's come home, his parents are dead, his house is destroyed. Is it too much to ask to just want to look at a pretty lady? No, I'm on her side. Like, fuck that shit. She doesn't owe a minute.
Yeah. Yeah, and I also just feel like, obviously, some regular pilots became kamikaze pilots, but there are also quite a lot of kamikaze pilots who they just trained specifically to be a kamikaze pilot, and if you're training someone to be able to fly a plane well enough to fly it into the side of a ship, he's not learning the ins and outs, like, he's probably not even that good of a pilot.
No, this is it. Like, I feel like training someone to fly into the side of a ship is probably fairly straightforward. Like, I could do it. I could fly a plane into the side of a ship. Just watch me.
I'm like, "You don't even really have to learn how to land it," which I feel like is the hardest part of
It's
flying a
gotta
plane.
be the hardest part. It's gotta be. It's never, could you get this plane in the air if you really absolutely had to? It's, could you land this plane? And in his case, probably not. No, but we did see him do that. Never mind.
We did see him do it once, yeah. Maybe that
We
was the
did.
only time. You don't know.
Yeah.
with the bomb strapped to the
Mhm.
bottom of his
Mhm.
plane. So,
Yeah.
to be fair, That was pretty decent.
Maybe
Yeah.
that's why they were so impressed. They're like, "Whoa, you guys know how to land those?"
They didn't teach me how to do that. Also, way, way, way back from the start, but I did note down. I love that they put all the mechanics in white outfits. Is that not just the best color for a mechanic?
Right? It's like, that outfit's gonna be fucked up day one. Just be
Yeah,
covered in.
yeah. Like all of their war budget is just gonna go on like bleach and washing machines.
And that's why Japan lost the war, you heard
That
it.
is why Japan's the war. Godzilla's like, you're using too much water and you're putting too much jazz in it. I object.
Right.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I'm over here barely wearing white because I'll just end up with something down my front and they've got their mechanics wearing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, the mission to destroy Godzilla is not over yet. Kenji Noda develops a plan to destroy him because the government won't do anything and none of the foreign powers are helping or intervening. So they kind of put out a call for Japanese sailors to come listen to the plan, and they have a chat about it, and they say, "quote This time it's not a battle to the death. It's a battle to live for the future." So it's very hopeful. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, and there's themes again there, right? Because it's like, number one, this whole thing where the government won't do anything, the government won't stand up for us, the government is not acting in our best interest, we have to do it ourselves, and kind of a break for how it went in World War II. And
Yeah.
the fact that, this movie even starts with a kamikaze pilot. Towards the end of the war, a lot of Japanese soldiers dying by suicide, etc. This destructive decision to fight to the last man kind of thing. And so they're actively not making that choice. They're like, we are going to fight Godzilla, but we're not just going to throw bodies at him. Like, we're out here to fight together and we're going to fight to survive.
Yeah, Noda makes a point too. He just repeats it a couple times that everybody's gonna make it back. Like they're not gonna go out there to die.
I mean, that's a very, very lovely sentiment. It does feel a little overly optimistic in the face of Godzilla, but I'm a pessimist, so I
I
can't
feel
relate, but I admire it.
I feel like we should mention that every time Godzilla is damaged, he gets bigger. And he has a heat blast, and it's like an atomic bomb as he kind of destroys stuff.
Yeah, he can power up and he turns blue as he's powering up, and then he shoots this death beam out of his mouth? Does it come out of his mouth?
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, where else would it come from? Don't answer
I
that. Oh shit, maybe that's what keeps him afloat. It's it's not long legs, it's not furious pedaling, it's a beam from his ass. Maybe leave this part out.
I mean, I think it's a valid theory. And Godzilla's ass beam keeps him afloat. It's part of the canon now.
I mean, it's a deeply stupid theory, but I don't feel that it's much stupider than long stilts, or
We don't know that it's not true.
we don't know that it's not true. This
There's
is the
there's
thing.
there's never a moment where they say, "Guys, Godzilla definitely doesn't have an ass beam."
Well, if I ever direct a Godzilla movie, I will be very careful to make sure to include some sort of line to that effect.
I have a question for all of you. Was
Mm.
anybody else confused about the plan, like the technical details of this plan? They were very specific.
Yeah, so they're basically like, we're gonna use bubbles to drive Godzilla at top speed to the bottom of the ocean because he can go to the bottom of the ocean, but they're like, if he goes down super fast, he won't be able to acclimate to the pressure and he'll just implode. And they're like, if that doesn't work, we have this huge air mattress that's gonna drag him to the top of the ocean again, and then he's gonna get the bends, and then he's gonna die that way.
Yeah, I have to admit, it has been a while since I saw this, and unfortunately, I didn't manage to fit in a rewatch, except for, the first 17 minutes before we recorded this. I had, yeah, the bit where they're like, okay, so all the way down, and if that doesn't work, all the way back up is quite hysterical. It's like Godzilla's just had a terrible diving accident.
Well, and also I'm like, okay, so if you thrust him to the bottom of the ocean and then yank him back up, and then if that doesn't work, now you have Godzilla pissed as hell that you just yeeted him to the bottom of the ocean and then yanked him back up amongst all of your ships.
Yeah, as a noted, very chill and calm person, I think even I would be slightly displeased by that turn of events, and I'm not a furious giant lizard.
Yeah.
What was the deal with the bubbles? Is he afraid of bubbles?
No, the bubbles are like what is gonna like force him to the bottom.
There's some kind of special bubbles too. They have a name. They're like free neon bubbles or something.
Right, 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 right.
I don't know what
They're
it
like
means, but
heavier than the water or whatever.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Got ya. I thought I was picturing just like, fairy liquid or a bottle of matey or I guess several thousand bottles of matey, and he was just like, "No, a bath." No, that makes way more sense. It's also jogging my memory somewhat.
Honestly, Godzilla being defeated because he's afraid of bubbles is a very like M. Night Shyamalan thing to do. Like Signs with the aliens being defeated by water.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, well, we can't do water with Godzilla because that's where he came from. So I don't know, bubbles?
He hates to be clean. He hates it.
He insists that it's bad for his skin. You need a little bit of natural oils. Oh, that's him being a metaphor for the US again. He fucking loves oil.
We're just finding so many hidden themes in this.
Oh my god, this is ugh.
Shikishima, the plan is that he's gonna lure Godzilla out to the super deep part of the ocean so they can carry out their plan in a plane. And they have this cool Shinden fighter plane, but it doesn't work. So Shikishima has to track down Tachinaba, that's the one surviving mechanic from the first scene of the movie, to help him repair the plane. Unbeknownst to the others, he plans to kamikaze it into Godzilla's big ol' mouth if their plan doesn't work, redeeming himself for his failure during the war.
I like the part where he wrote like 1,000 letters to try and find this mechanic. And his whole idea was to just piss him off bad enough so he would find him and beat him up.
Literally. And then Tachinaba shows up and is basically like, "Bro, stop fucking texting me!" The fighter plane is kind of cool and weird looking. It's a Kyushu J7W Shinden, which was a real fighter plane. It has the wings mounted at the rear of the fuselage and the propeller in the back. So when you see it flying, it almost looks like it's flying backwards. Compared to other planes of the era, it was designed to intercept American B-29 bombers over Japan in the final months of the war. So it was fast and it was heavily armed. Only 2 prototypes were built out of the 150 that they planned because obviously the war came to an end. So there was not a need to build anymore. And one was actually test flown, but not until the last days of the war in August of 1945.
And the word Shinden is a Japanese word, and it's often translated as magnificent lightning. It was
Yeah.
fast, I'm taking.
Listen, it's a weird looking motherfucker. There's one that exists. You can actually go see it. It's at a museum in Virginia in the US. But the production team didn't have access to it for the movie. So they actually built a 1-to-1 replica and they offset the budget by agreeing to sell it to a Japanese museum after production. So you can actually go and see the replica they use in this movie as well at the Taichirai Peace Memorial Museum in Shikuzen, Fukuoka in Japan.
How can that be? Did he not fly it into Godzilla's face?
Well, he obviously did fly it into Godzilla's face. Yes, he did.
I don't understand.
Well, yeah, I mean, Godzilla's obviously real and he destroyed Tokyo, so I mean,
Yeah.
what are you gonna do?
Yeah, nobody please tell my lovely husband that there is a super cool, weird fighter plane in Virginia because I don't want to go to there. He really does love a weird plane or a regular plane.
I mean, highly relatable. I would also like to go see this weird plane.
So, well, Shikishima is able to lure Godzilla out to the sea, and the first part of the plan goes mostly right. It's like the dragging Godzilla down to the bottom of the ocean. He doesn't die. And then, as they're trying to pull him back up, he kind of like snaps the whatever they're doing, so they can't pull him up. And then he does come up at the end, but he's angry as fuck.
Imagine.
So he prepares to use its death ray on the nearby ships, which are many because the young kid that is not able to fight in World War II has turned up with like an armada of tugboats to help. It's like Dunkirk, but in Japan. But obviously, Godzilla is ready to destroy them all. And that's when Fukushima kind of comes back with his weird looking plane and crashes the plane, which is full of bombs, into Godzilla's mouth. Its head explodes very
Damn.
nicely. So they think it's dead.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, if his head's exploded, it seems like a fair assumption.
But I feel like They already threw the sea mine into his mouth, which blew off a good chunk of his head, and he did not die. So I just feel like at this point, we know that putting tons of explosives in and around Godzilla's mouth doesn't actually kill him.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem a little bit of like, well, we've tried nothing and we're all out of ideas. But I mean, really, if you've already tried mines and bombs and drowning and the bends, really, what is left? I mean, I don't really know what there is after that. Like poison?
I do feel like him flying his plane into Godzilla's mouth as like a last ditch attempt is like more metaphor because it's
Mm.
like yeah, that was kind of the thing at the end of World War II, right? Like the suicide bomber was the last ditch attempt kind of thing, and it simply did not work, and it's not going to work in this instance either.
No, even more unlikely. It's like, well, at least those planes and those American pilots could die. You know, you could explode their heads and reasonably expect that they might not come back, which unfortunately does not seem to be the case here.
No. Moments later, Shigashima parachutes to safety, choosing to live, which is a big thematic moment. And we learned that Tachibana installed the ejection seat, forgiving Shikishima for what happened on Odo and suggesting that he forgive himself and choose life as well.
And for me, this wasn't very much of a surprise because there's a scene where Tachibana is repairing the plane and he's kind of looking at the seat and giving it a little rub of being pleased, I take it. And there's a sign on it in German that says ejection seat.
They're like, this won't be a spoiler for people in Japan or people in the US because none of these fuckers speak German. I love the idea that they're using German engineering. They're like, we really want to make sure this ejection seat works.
I do like that he gets to raise that little kid all by himself? Question mark? Guess not, because his neighbor Sumiko, who's been looking after Akiko, informs him that Noriko is actually alive, but she's wounded. So he goes to look for her in the hospital and he cries awkwardly, and then they have a hug and we see something there. You take it away, Sam. What do we see?
Yeah, she has some kind of black Godzilla germs question mark on her neck. And then we also get a shot of like deep in the ocean Godzilla starting to regenerate. So you know that they're setting it up for a sequel.
Has it been made? Do we know?
I don't believe so. Yeah, I did find, don't get me wrong, I was very glad that it turned out Noriko was alive, but I did find it a little improbable. She got pretty fucked up.
Yeah, she did come down with a bad case of Godzilla.
She did, and that is rarely survivable. I do feel like it was just a touch more than a boo-boo.
I feel like I know what they're gonna do. They're gonna turn this into some kind of King Kong, where the thing on her neck is actually a homing beacon for the Godzilla to find her and take her away and like climb a building in the US.
I
Yeah.
thought you were about to say that it would turn her into King Kong. I'm glad you didn't.
I mean, I would watch the hell out of that movie.
I would,
Noriko turns into King Kong and has to fight Godzilla.
I would watch it, but it is deeply stupid plot-wise.
I mean, I don't know what the themes would be there, but, I mean, I'm sure they could figure it out.
I would say probably trauma. Yeah, trauma.
Sometimes you get so traumatized you turn into King Kong, and that's okay.
The monkey part's a little baffling, but trauma for sure.
Yeah, it's never fully explained why she turns into King Kong. They're like, "Yeah,
That's
she
because
got
they
Godzilla."
don't know.
They're like, "Our best scientists are on it, and they don't understand why she got Godzilla germs and turned into King Kong."
It's because of the plot.
Because of the plot, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, the movie's over.
The movie is over, and I did like that she survived because, I mean, I think it's not just, a happy ending slapped on for the benefit of the audience. It really is in keeping with this theme of, like, healing and renewal and growth and, our main character chooses to live, and because of that, he gets to have some semblance of happily ever after, even though, his girlfriend has Godzilla germs, and we don't know what's gonna happen next.
Yeah, it's nice. It isn't, despite the set all doom and gloom, not entirely. It is a far more meaningful film, I think, than we've made it sound. Yeah, there is a depth there. that I think perhaps my commentary in particular has somewhat overlooked. Yeah, it's a very nice people movie and a monster movie. It's not just all stomping on cities and cool explosions. Looking at you, Michael Bay.
And I one of the things I liked in particular was that, like, all of the characters surrounding the main character also have depth and some kind of interior life happening, which is nice.
Mhm.
Like, I particularly liked his group of boys, his friends, and they razz him a little bit, and they're on his ass about being a fake dad to Akiko. He's like, "That's not even my kid," and they're like, "Whatever, bro, you're her dad now. Fucking figure it out."
I also actually really liked Noriko because she was ready to move on. She was like, I'm gonna get a job in Ginza because if I stay here, you're not getting a wife. But what she was really saying is, you're being a fucking loser. Why don't you ask me? And I did like that she kind of chose to make a life for herself again, despite him not doing anything. And his motivations, honestly, not wanting to drag her into his war. I thought that was interesting. I don't know. It's a good movie.
Crucially, she literally and metaphorically saved him because she pushed him out of the way of Godzilla, but also she gave him a reason to want to choose life.
Exactly. What a wholesome movie if you think about it.
Yeah,
Right.
in some ways. I mean, I don't love the fact that she's like, all right, well, I'm gonna go and get a job, and then Godzilla fucks her up anyway. It does feel somewhat like she can't win either way.
God forbid women do anything.
Literally, Godzilla gonna Zilla.
And I will say, if you watch this movie in your living room, anytime Godzilla comes on screen, you are allowed to go, "Godzilla!" Which is what I did
Every time.
every time. Every time he came up, I was like, "Godzilla!"
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we did just finish discussing that this wasn't one of those movies where you're rooting for him, but I love that for you.
It's just a fun word to yell. It's really a good time, and I loved anytime he was mentioned in dialogue. Like, there's this one scene, I think on the boat, where, like, the main character is talking to his boys. He's like they're like, "Yeah, you shouldn't put so much pressure on yourself. Don't push yourself so hard." And he's like, "I have to. It's Godzilla."
Yeah, there's not a lot of room there for getting it wrong.
True.
Go big or go home.
We should rate this movie, but before we rate this movie, we would like to remind you that you can follow us wherever you get your podcast and rate us 5 stars and write a review because we like it. And you can share this episode with a friend.
How many Japanese Navy's bleach budgets out of 10 would you rate this movie, Mart?
I would rate this movie. I would probably rate it 8 Japanese Navy's bleach budgets out of 10. I really enjoyed it, surprisingly. I did not think I was gonna. So maybe that's why I'm giving it a really high rating. As a war movie, the themes are really good. Like, you don't get a lot of history, but I do really like the themes and also the visual references of specifically nuclear bombing. So I did enjoy that quite a bit. Like, the storyline was good. Godzilla was, Godzilla, but I didn't mind him too much. And I thought I would probably even watch it again, and I might even watch the sequel if it comes out. How about you, Sam?
I love you're, like, the only person who, like, watches a Godzilla movie and is like, "I hope there's not too much Godzilla in this." I really liked that this movie did sort of tip its hat to the original and a lot of the themes in the original, and then still managed to be kind of creative and inventive and original with it, and expand on those themes and make a movie that I do think is really meaningful, even if you take Godzilla out of it. It's really about the hero's journey and him getting to redeem himself. Just really well written. All the characters around the main character are really good as well. I did enjoy the scenes where Godzilla is gleefully stomping around destroying Tokyo. Like, those are always fun. So yeah, I think I'd also give this movie 8 Japanese Navy's bleach budgets out of 10. And I would watch it again, and I do recommend it, even if you don't think you're gonna like a Godzilla movie. What would you rate this movie, Julie?
So I'm gonna give it probably a 9 bleach budgets because let's be real, when it comes to something like a giant monster like Godzilla or King Kong or the Meg, Megan Sharkle herself, it's not easy to make it not goofy, I don't think. But they've done that here. It's a war movie, and you really feel that the battle that they have against Godzilla is serious, and it's not just stomping around and bad costumes and poorly built miniature city sets. I think with a monster movie, when you have a giant lizard or a giant monkey or a giant shark, there is the risk that things will get silly. And, sometimes that's exactly what you want. But when you are set at the end of World War II, it's not a great look to make it into a goofy monster movie with daft costumes and not very convincing monsters. And I think they've done a really good job of keeping that level of seriousness and still having it be just a banging monster movie. I really feel like they've nailed both aspects there without doing a disservice to either one.
Yeah, I agree.
I would just like to point out that I didn't mind Godzilla has to be the quote.
She's like, "Yeah, you know what? I didn't hate Godzilla in this Godzilla movie."
Listen, you guys made me watch this for the podcast. So I would never have watched it on my own, and I'm kind of glad I did, despite
Yay!
Godzilla.
I was at a Thanksgiving party last night that's thrown every year by a couple of our American friends, and we were discussing movies in general, monster movies specifically, and metaphors, with Godzilla being, as we discussed, a metaphor for nuclear war or the US itself. But I have a friend who saw Parasite, and I don't know if you've seen Parasite, but it's essentially about poverty and financial inequality and class divide. And he was upset that there was no actual physical parasite in it. He wanted a big bug or an alien or something like that, which I completely get. I'm all for the metaphorical, but I do love a monster movie. So yeah, I'm glad that Godzilla just showed up right at the start. He is a metaphor, but he's also a giant monster. Like, you can have both.
They really said, "People will walk out of this theater if we don't have Godzilla in the first 5 minutes."
If it turns out that Godzilla is just the horror of war, I'm leaving.
Everyone except Mart who saw that movie was like, "There better be Godzilla in this movie, and I better not see any fucking themes."
Yeah, I just think, we can have it all in this day and age. You don't have to choose between an actual monster and a theme, and I think
Uh,
that's beautiful. Yeah, no, he was absolutely rigid that there was no actual parasite in the movie Parasite.
I was promised a parasite, it's right there in the name.
Yeah. No, I just feel like should Mart ever go into politics, maybe keeping the phrase, "I didn't mind Godzilla," in the context of this movie. We might wanna keep that one out of the media's eye line. Could be taken out of context.
Someone just splices it together so that you're like, "You know what? I'm glad Godzilla destroyed Tokyo. That city had it coming."
Yeah, like, he had some good points, I think.
Yes, I do think Godzilla should run for president.
We don't have any additional notes for this movie, because obviously it's a Godzilla movie, but maybe any of you reading anything interesting that you want to talk about?
Yes, I am reading The Black Count: Glory, Revolution, Betrayal, and the Real Count of Monte Cristo by Tom Rice, and it's about Alexander Dumas's father. So Alexander Dumas obviously wrote The Three Musketeers and The Count of Monte Cristo, and his father was a black man who rose to become essentially a four-star general in Revolutionary era France, which is like fairly impressive. So yeah, I'm reading a little biography about him, and so far I'm getting a lot of super interesting context about racism, essentially in 1700s France, and like the weird social landscape that existed.
Sounds pretty
Impressive.
interesting.
How about you, Julie?
Kind of between books at the moment. I do have one of the recent KJ Charles novels to read. I don't know if you are aware of who she is, but she is a big name in essentially queer romance fiction, historical fiction, but it's definitely not porn without plot. She is very diligent in making sure that her history and details are correct. So it's just pretty good if you're a history fan who, enjoys reading about a couple of guys getting to know each other.
I mean, I'll listen. That audience of ours is non-zero. There's a Venn diagram there for sure with our listeners.
And as usual, I'm not reading anything at the moment. So if you want to give us any suggestions for future movies to watch, or TV shows, or books to read, you can also do that. Please.
Well, I recommend Godzilla 1998.
It has a 20% on Rotten Tomatoes. I don't think that Mart is gonna like that one. I just can't imagine it.
All right, fine then, The Meg.
I second that recommendation.
Mhm.
You know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, they should make a Meg set during World War II, and it's Jason Statham's grandfather who has to fight it.
Also played by Jason Statham.
Also played by Jason Statham. And it's just at one point he makes some weird, like, oddly prescient reference to how, like, one day his grandchildren will have to fight the Meg.
You know, you mentioned at the start that Godzilla is the biggest movie franchise ever with 37 movies, and I was like, closely followed by presumably The Fast and the Furious.
They're really working on it, yeah.
I feel like it's on topic to kind of tell you what we're doing next week, because we're watching Beast of War, which is about a shark.
Really?
Mhm.
Yeah.
We did find a shark attack in World War II movie.
I mean, is it relevant? Have they strapped a torpedo shark to the shark or
Well, the shark is also kind of a metaphor, so
Hang on, you will have to check into the next episode to find out. First of all, thank you, Julie, for enriching our episode with your Godzilla enthusiasm. It probably made up for my lack of enthusiasm about Godzilla. I thought he was kind of a puny lizard at some point, but thanks for.
well, thank you for having me,
It was
despite
really
my
fun.
lack of expertise.
No, you were plenty of expertise full. That's not a word, is it?
glad we're all firing on the same amount of cylinders today.
Yeah, listen, it's been a week.
Anyway, thank you everybody else for listening. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow us on Instagram at Rosie the Reviewer Podcast, or you can visit our website, rosieTheReviewer.com, for more information. I don't know on what in this case, because there is not a lot that's not about Godzilla. But, just go there anyway. It'll be fun. See you next week.
Bye.
Thank you, bye.